With the 9th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Dallas Mavericks selected Dennis Smith Jr., the freakishly athletic point guard from NC State. Many thought this pick was a steal at the time, including LeBron James. Smith Jr. in his rookie year put together a ton of highlight-worthy plays, but he lacked efficiency. The next year, the Mavericks drafted Luka Doncic, and those two were expected to be the backcourt of the future. Halfway through their first season together, though, Smith was traded to the Knicks, along with other players and picks, for Kristaps Porzingis. But this seemed like a positive for Dennis Smith. He had a chance to be the PG of the future for the New York Knicks, a franchise that was so desperately in need of one, and he would be teammates with Frank Ntilikina, the man he was drafted over by New York. And in New York, Dennis Smith, for the rest of that second year, again showed some signs but lacked efficiency. And going into year 3, it was a huge year for him. He had all the opportunities to be the starting point guard of the New York Knicks and prove himself to the organization moving forward in his third year in the league. But it just didn't work out. He dealt with injuries and stuff off the court all season and really just never got into a rhythm and was really poor all throughout his third year in the NBA. His fourth year, he played 3 games for the Knicks and was put in the Derrick Rose trade, sending him to Detroit. Now, Detroit was a team entering a rebuild and seemed like, Smith Jr. in his first 2 stops really just couldn't find his way. But he had an opportunity now in Detroit to carve out a role for himself on a rebuilding young team. And he just couldn't do it again, really. The main reason Smith Jr.'s NBA career up to this point had been a disappointment was because of his jump shot and him not really being a great facilitator. He was a scoring point guard. That's what he was meant to be, and he really wasn't that good of a scorer anymore. He had clearly lost confidence. And there were a lot of questions about DSJ as he hit free agency and he signed a deal with the Trailblazers. And with the Portland Trailblazers, he started a few games for them last year, and when he did get big minutes, he played pretty well, averaging 16 of 4 and 6. But nonetheless, the Blazers still cut him midway through the season. It was a bit surprising, but it wasn't crazy as they were trying to open up a roster spot for another player. And so for 6 months, Dennis Smith Jr., the man some compared to John Wall and Russell Westbrook and thought would be a star coming out of the 2017 NBA Draft, was completely out of the NBA. And it looked like it would be that way to start the season as well. But when the Charlotte Hornets, his hometown team, came calling with an invite to training camp, he accepted. And to start the year, he's been getting some minutes with the injuries to LaMelo Ball and most recently Terry Rozier. Now, it is only 3 games so far he's played as a starter, but he has been impressive. And we're going to go over if the Charlotte Hornets are finally the team that can help DSJ reach his immense potential. Now, what's been most impressive to me about Dennis Smith Jr.'s performances is his defense. Now, when he was in New York, he definitely wasn't a great defender, and when he was in Dallas, he most definitely wasn't a great defender. But in Portland we saw, and in Charlotte, he has made a really substantial improvement on the defensive side. And although it is very early in the season, it is impressive that Smith Jr. leads the Hornets in steals with 8 steals so far, as well as deflections with 13, and is second on the Hornets in blocks with 3. And if you watch the games, he's clearly bringing a lot of intensity on that end. Some other numbers on Smith Jr. early this season include the fact that he's shooting 71% on 3-pointers and shooting 68.8% at the rim. Now, obviously, that level of 3-point shooting isn't sustainable, but if he could shoot something decent, like 33%, that would be very nice for him. And you'd like to see those finishing improvements, which I do think are a bit more, or definitely more sustainable than shooting 71% from three, but it is good for his confidence that he definitely looks like he's gotten off to a good start from three, as in the past we've seen him really struggle with his confidence with his shot. It does seem like he's made some changes, tweaked his form a little bit, and it does look better, and he looks more confident, and he's finally gaining that confidence back, which is also a really big part for him, because we saw how much he lacked it at the end of his stint in New York, and at his time in Detroit especially. Overall, though, I will be very interested to see if, at least to an extent, he can sustain the success he's having right now with Charlotte. Obviously, his minutes are going to be a bit down when Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball come back, but if he can just carve out a spot for himself in a rotation as an energetic defensive guard who has some bounce and when you need him to can make an open jumper time and time again, really, I do think he has a spot for himself in the league. And what's really intriguing and promising for me are the defensive improvements Dennis Smith has made. He's also looked like a better facilitator and passer. He's averaging 5 assists so far per game, as well as an impressive 9.3 potential assists per game. And really, if you watch the Hornets, he has improved very much. Or if you watch the Hornets this year and watch Smith throughout his career, he has improved very much at running the offense. And he was really good at that in their game versus Atlanta. Overall, though, I hope he can sustain this success and find a place for himself permanently in the league. And definitely an interesting story early in the season to keep your eye on. The possible resurgence of Dennis Smith Jr.